what we saw is VK became legends of legend. So I wonder what happens next. Maybe becomes the ghost. I'm just kidding. Okay. The next speaker is special. Okay. I mean, you look at VK today. He's handsome. He's well dressed. He's a scholar. He's polished. The next speaker is the one who was responsible for this. Yeah. Okay. He's the one who polished VK. Okay. And that's Bob Leon. Bob Leon was VK's advisor at the University of Texas at Austin. Okay. And so if VK is a legend today, I think Bob owes some responsibility for that. Okay, Bob? He's going to tell us about the creation of VK and the making of VK, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, good morning, everyone. I guess he'll load this up for me. It's indeed a pleasure to be here and an honor to be here. When I was asked to talk, I asked if this was a roast or is this, did you see already some of the pictures? All right, so the cat's out of the bag, I guess. Or whether this was to be serious, and they said, well, it's a little bit of both. So I figured after hearing all these great things about VK, all his accomplishments and so on and so forth, that I'd like to share some personal and some serious with you about his journey. And in some ways, in thinking about this, I wanted to share some things with the PhD students who are here, his PhD students, because when I was asked to do the making of VK, there's some implication that maybe this was planned and there's some recipe on how to do this and so on. And what I want to paint is the picture of how random some of this stuff actually is. All the planning in the world couldn't account for much of what's going to happen. So, is the remote here? So the early years. This is VK as a very young man. And the reason I put this here is because I don't think that it can't go without saying that his mother and his father and the values that they instilled in him as a young man were critical to where he is now. A lot of people can take a lot of credit for VK and bits and pieces of this. I'm not sure when this picture was taken, but I think that what they did for him and how he was brought up was critical to this. As a matter of fact, his mom was sharing with me a little bit earlier that when he was a very young man first starting school, that he refused to go to school. He hated school. He actually hated school. And his mother and father encouraged him and actually spurred him on to go to school.
And now he's in school all day.
And now he's in school. And his father actually wanted him to be a doctor because his father had a job in the medical community, and VK was not really interested in that, but when he finished at Texas, he was able to tell his dad that he was finally a doctor and would provide any surgery that was required that he might be able to do, which was quite limited. But also not just the values when he was growing up, but I think also literally the sacrifice of getting him to the United States. It was not an easy thing for the family to do, and I think they're to take credit for getting him to Austin, Texas. And he arrived in Austin, Texas on August 15th, 1981. And I had not been there that long. He arrived at a very good time. Again, this is a coincidence. Austin had just gone through about 3 or 4 years of very serious hiring in the marketing department. And I was one of the first hires. Raj Srivastava came in along with me, Wayne Hoyer, Rohit Deshpande, Roland Rust, Wayne Hoyer, Jim Anderson. So those of you that are in academics, especially the PhD students, will recognize those names. We were all faculty at the time at the University of Texas. I think every single one of those people now holds a chaired professorship at places like Harvard, Northwestern, and TCU. So he arrived at a very good time. A lot of young faculty were starting out there. We were not that different in some ways in terms of age. We were hungry and really wanting to work hard, and he joined in that group. Now, I will add that about 2 weeks after he arrived in Austin, he called home and talked to his mom and said, "I want to come home. I hate it here." So again, the mom is to take credit for encouraging him to stay on in Austin. In Austin, he went through a fairly rigorous course of study, working with almost all of us at different points in time. And I think he was always quantitative, and as the president pointed out, he's kind of a statistician masquerading as a marketer like many of us. But I think he really there got the first dose of making things relevant. And that dose was tied to his dissertation, where he worked on some estimation methodologies for oil and gas exploration along with Jim Dyer. And that went on to be implemented and used for quite a few years by that particular company, and probably represents at least a few million of the $1 billion that BK has earned for companies over the course of time. I just realized I probably have known him longer than anybody here except his mother and his sister, right? And maybe his brother-in-law, who he was a classmate with. So that's probably another credential for being here, is just having followed him for his career. When he left Texas, he was very well trained, I must admit. He was ready to go and headed for, actually, let me share a couple of pictures with you. Here's the motley crew. Is that your car, that Ford Mustang?
Yes, that's Ford Mustang.
Yeah, he actually bought this Ford Mustang there, and shortly after he arrived, he actually had a nicer car than most of us on the faculty. I think at the time Raj was driving an old Ford Fiesta. I had an old Fiat, and then BK, was able to muster up some money to buy this classic Mustang here. So that was part of the group that he started with and got to know early on. And here's part of that group. Pardon me?
I have taken the ride in the Mustang.
And he has slept many nights in that.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, in the back seat or just driving around to get her asleep. Yeah. Now this is also a part of the group that was there, and you're in this picture, right? Naveen's in this picture right there. So that's why I decided that this would be a very appropriate picture, and we probably have known him for about the same time. Did you come a year later?
I came a year later.
Yeah, so I got a year on you.
And Bob was on my dissertation committee.
Yeah.
So he gave me a hard time.
So yeah. And I guess Joe Cherion's there on the right. So yeah, quite a few people that are there that you might recognize that have become marketing scholars. Some not in marketing, right? Some of those are in other areas. We're studying other areas.
Third one is the dean at CMU.
At CMU.
Yeah.
So, other than him, everybody has done quite well in their career. Occasionally, one of us will go to the other side, right? And we can forgive that. So anyway, so that was part of the group he was with. He left University of Texas and went to University of Iowa. Now, the other thing that he got involved with, other than his dissertation at Texas, which again is part of just being at the right place at the right time. When I finished, I did a lot of advertising pricing stuff, and the scanner stuff that you all live with every day when you go to the store and you buy something and they scan it right, that stuff just started about 1979, all right? And I was part of a group at MSI that got the first data set, this coffee data set, that had been furnished, because nobody knew what to do with it. You talked about drinking out of a fire hydrant. That was what it was basically called at the time. There was so much data coming in. It was like drinking out of a fire hydrant. Nobody knew how to manage it. I mean, big data now is huge compared to even that, but at the time nobody knew how to do it. So at the time, we got this data set, started looking at some scanner results of looking at store substitution, how people would cross-shop, because we could look at this kind of phenomena. And he went to Iowa, and it was very timely because a guy named Jerry Eskin was on the faculty at the University of Iowa, and Jerry was a co-founder of IRI, which is one of the two big scanner data companies. So he had taken a leave shortly after VK went there, and but it was a good fit. It was a good fit. Penny Barron was there, another mentor that took care of him while he was there. But this is the kind of random part of it. He was doing well at Iowa and had been there a short period of time, maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And I get a call. I mean, we're always talking and stuff. And VK says, you know, I got a problem. And I'm thinking, you know, he's always got a problem. I mean, believe me, he always has a problem. And he can't sleep. And if he can't sleep, sometimes you can't sleep. So he called, I got a problem. I said, what's the problem? He said, you know, I'm sick. I'm really sick. And I'm kind of worried. I said, sick? Oh my gosh, what's going on here? He goes, he found out that he was allergic to corn dust. Okay? Now, those of you that are familiar with Iowa know that if you're allergic to corn or corn dust, Iowa is not the place to live, right? So what was happening is when they plowed out the corn after it was picked, or when they picked it, all this dust would be in the air and so on and so forth for days, weeks, months, or whatever, and he was allergic to it. And basically was going to be in a situation where if he stayed there several months out of the year, he was going to be quite ill, and this is not something that shops or whatever could take care of. So it was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I said, well, I don't know, we'll figure this out. And again, a week, 2 weeks later, while we're trying to figure it out, I get a call from the University of Houston, and it was Ed Blair, who said, you know, we just lost somebody, and we're looking for a faculty member. You know anybody? I said, well, let me think about it. You know, maybe I know somebody that might be available, and that was VK. So VK got connected with the University of Houston because of a loss of a faculty member and an allergy to corn dust in Iowa, and moved down there, and that's where he really, I think, took off. That's where he started to work with PhD students. That's where he started his journey in customer relationship management, and he actually started that journey in a really solid way with his first PhD student, Werner, right? So at Houston, he had his first PhD student, started working on CRM, and continued at Houston to be very productive, all right? His two daughters were there, right? Grew up in Houston, did great things themselves, and I think was pretty happy at Houston. He had good mentors there, Keith Cox and others. He was well taken care of. But I think that there was always this desire to build something, all right, to build something from scratch. So he left Houston with the opportunity to go to University of Connecticut and to do exactly that, to basically create a center, to build it from scratch, to get big data together, to start working with companies, which he was doing a little bit at Houston, but at Connecticut he was able to do that in a big way. And through there, I think, developed the talent to both do the academic side of things, to write the articles, but also to interface and interact with the business community, which is a rare talent for an academic. A lot of times academics will write their work and kind of put it out there and think, if you like it, fine, but I'm not going to interpret it for you. I'm not going to spend time trying to teach you how to use it or whatever. But VK there started to create the network, and that's where I think ING came on board and was very interested in working with him. And that's where another one of his PhD students, got involved, moving CRM along the scale to the lifetime value work. And where's Andrew? Andrew's in the back. That's Andrew Peterson. And I've been fortunate to work with this team. We've had a good ride working on customer lifetime value and actually looking at some of these different issues. And that pushed forward for a number of years, again, continuing to build. And these are also volumes that are in this particular series, these particular topics. I think he was very happy at Connecticut. I think he was doing very well. No reason to move. And then I think this guy gave him a call, going back, and that's why I had this first picture, going back to his PhD days, going back to 1982 when you guys probably first met, and the relationships that you had built up and so on and so forth, and said that he thought he might have an opportunity down here. And long story short, a very smart dean and a very smart administration at the higher levels were able to him away from the University of Connecticut and to basically create even a supermodel of what he had there. I was talking to Werner a little bit earlier. In parts of Europe and Germany in particular, they had this concept that as a professor reaches a particular stage, they almost give this person a center. They put this person at the head of it. They have a number of PhD students that work with them. They're able to recruit faculty specific to the research interest and the agenda of that particular individual, and so on and so forth. It takes a lot of work, right? A lot of effort. You have to have the vision. You have to put the time in to manage these people. And that's really what I think BK has created here through the dean's wisdom and ability to get it and see what's going on. And just has done a fantastic job here as well. As was mentioned, I think, by the president, not only has he done work with companies and continued to share his research and his wisdom with companies in the public sector, but he's also really gone full throttle in trying to help out generously pro bono other companies like the aquarium here in terms of helping them do things a lot better. So the giving back part is generally there. So this is a bit of the journey that he took. Again, I'm not sure most of these things were thought out and planned. They just kind of happened, especially the beginning parts. But again, I think much of the credit goes back to his support in India, his family support, again, the daughters and his wife who have stayed by his side as he's worked through this, and again, some very smart administrators and classmates. So I was thinking the $1 billion number, if I could take, 1/10 of 1% credit for that, then maybe I could take $1 million credit. So at least I can think that maybe I got $1 million share of some of this stuff. But again, I'm sure, I'm confident he'll continue to produce. The Legends series is an honor, I think, honoring someone who has produced a lot of work, and it is well deserved. As Jack said, my guess is in 20 years we'll say a VK2 and another series, maybe 12 volumes instead of 10. You've got Jay-Z, you've got Madonna, a few people that are known by just one name, and I think if you say BK in the marketing business community, maybe he's actually made it to that level right now. So congratulations on this and your success. Congratulations.
Thank you, Bob.